People thought I was nuts. No one believed this could happen. No one ever thinks bad things will happen.
The CDC is freaking next door. If anything was really wrong, they'd be all over it.
In patterns.
What psychology?
I'm still kicking and most everyone else isn't.
Happy story, Mr. Sunshine. You just hold up with your protein powder?
We're not gonna be friends.
You can decide!
Joe is a lonely man who has been living in a bunker under his house since the zombie apocalypse started. The only things that make him happy are watching old football games he used to play in and his dog, Gally, who is his best and only friend. To take care of Gally, Joe often goes outside so the dog can go to the bathroom and get some fresh air. These trips are very risky, so he always wears a bulletproof vest and carries a folding knife. One evening, the old dog begs for a walk, and Joe decides to go outside despite the danger. As soon as he steps out, a group of bloodthirsty zombies surrounds him. Joe uses whatever sharp objects he has to fight them off, but some zombies manage to get through and bite Gally. Even though he kills all the zombies, he loses his only friend and is heartbroken. After burying Gally, Joe feels completely alone. Watching football or doing crosswords no longer interests him. He starts to feel like he's going crazy from being isolated in the bunker. He remembers an old friend, Sandra, who he used to talk to before the apocalypse. Joe and Sandra were the only ones who thought something like this could happen and had prepared in advance. She built a shelter near her house, and they fell in love through online messages, but they never met in person. Determined to change that, Joe collects supplies, a map, weapons, and his electric motorcycle to start a long and dangerous journey over 1,000 kilometers. Less than a day into the trip, Joe hits a spike trap on the road, which punctures his tires and ruins the motorcycle. As he looks around, he falls into another trap. A zombie approaches him, caught in a net, but a stranger kills it and offers to help him. Not trusting her, Joe is asked to wear handcuffs to make sure he won't be a danger. The woman, Evie, also wanted to leave her shelter and had set up the traps to take his motorcycle. She plans to leave him behind and continue searching for her husband, but the bike has a special lock that only Joe can operate. Evie agrees to a joint journey with Joe acting as her driver. She doesn't trust him and keeps a gun aimed at him, forcing him to stay handcuffed, even when he needs to use the bathroom. Joe ignores her attempts to talk to him and listens to music through his headphones, staying in the cuffs for Evie's peace of mind. In the evening, they make camp in the forest and Evie reads Joe's personal journal. She realizes he's a good person and no longer a threat. Their communication starts to improve, especially after one night when they're surrounded by a group of zombies. Working together as a well-coordinated team, they help each other fight off the undead. Afterward, Evie removes Joe's handcuffs and trust begins to grow between them. Joe even lets Evie take the wheel of the motorcycle as they continue toward their goal. That evening, they camp in an abandoned hangar and share stories about themselves. Evie admits she wants to find her ex-husband, Steven, hoping he still loves her. Unexpectedly, it turns out that Evie is traveling to a nearby town and could help locate Sandra's house. After reading Joe and Sandra's journal and correspondence, Evie provides the exact coordinates of the house they've been searching for. Their moment of joy is cut short when the motorcycle is stolen. Joe had briefly left it unattended after starting the engine. The thief leaves behind a small sheep in exchange. Even in this situation, Evie remains optimistic and grows attached to the animal, which irritates Joe. He blames her for what happened and the tension escalates into an argument, causing them to part ways. Evie finds her ex-husband's house and discovers a painting of herself. Realizing he truly loved her, though he had vented his anger and other artworks, he depicted her as a beautiful woman. She would have been happy to find him, but he has vanished without a trace and is unlikely to be alive. Meanwhile, Joe locates Sandra's house and notices a security camera. Using the password, he asks her to let him in and manages to hide just before zombies surround him. Meeting Sandra is a surprising reunion for both of them because she had spent 400 days alone in a bunker, surviving the zombie apocalypse. Sandra offers Joe a pastry, but it contains a special ingredient that disconnects him from reality. This isn't a game or a joke, it's a way to weaken him. Sandra has changed. Isolated for so long, she has gone mad and become a serial killer who hunts men. She binds Joe and takes his watch as a trophy, part of her collection of victim keepsakes. She stabs him in the chest, but he is saved by an amulet Evie had given him. Joe tries to escape but fails, though survival becomes possible once again because Evie has located Sandra's house and is now right above the bunker. Sandra, with Joe bound and gagged, meets Evie and invites her into the bunker. She pretends to be normal and offers Evie the same special pastry laced with drugs, but Evie feels no effect, having become accustomed to such substances. Sandra attacks Evie with a knife, but Evie defends herself and fights back. She finds and frees Joe, who is forced to kill Sandra in self-defense. Moments later, Sandra turns into a zombie and attacks again, but Joe and Evie lock her in the bunker. Realizing they've become friends and that even in this horrific world, something beautiful can exist, Joe and Evie set out together on a new adventure. Blair is an overly demanding owner of an insurance company, constantly criticizing her employees for even the smallest mistakes. She's particularly frustrated with her administrator, Gina, who often ignores her orders and approaches her work with a lack of responsibility. Meanwhile, chaos erupts in the city, but Blair insists everyone keep working, seeing it as the perfect opportunity to sell high-profit insurance and make even more money. While Gina and the rest of the staff diligently follow orders, Blair decides to leave the city with her fiancé. They head for an island, thinking they can wait out the chaos in Atlanta. On their way out, they stop at a gas station only to find no fuel available and a wait necessary. At the same time, Gina shows up, ignoring Blair's demands and instructions. Enraged, Blair confronts her, but ends up simply firing her during the argument. Gina doesn't think much about it, at least not until she sees a zombie in an old lady's car. She realizes her brother was right and that a zombie outbreak has started in the city. Gina decides to steal a fuel truck. She grabs a shotgun, takes the keys from the driver, and ignores the FBI agent's orders. Suddenly, they hear a woman scream and see a zombie bite her neck. A fight starts. The agent takes the shotgun from Gina, but the truck driver attacks him. A shot hits the fuel tank and causes a big explosion that kills everyone. A little while later, Gina and Blair find themselves back in the insurance office. They remember what happened and feel a bit like they've been through this before, but they try not to think about it too much. They act like it was just a dream or a crazy idea. Blair tries to leave the city again and ends up at a gas station where she runs into Gina holding a shotgun. Trying to get away, Blair tells the agent about the truck theft and notices a mark on his arm. She realizes he's about to turn into a zombie. As the first zombie attacks, Gina takes the truck again, but Blair stops her, trying not to run over her boss. Gina swerves and crashes. Back where they started, Gina and Blair know they're stuck in a time loop. Blair wants to talk and plan, but Gina won't listen. She says the events won't happen again and she won't go back to the gas station. But a few hours later, she tries to take the fuel truck again with her shotgun, demanding the keys. When the agent tries to take the gun, Gina accidentally kills the driver. The truck starts moving with the agent's son inside, and both Gina and Blair rush to stop it. In the process, they crash into the reanimated driver, causing another explosion. Back at the starting point, Gina and Blair no longer try to act normal. They talk about the zombie apocalypse openly, confusing their co-workers who are trying to figure out what's going on. Their anger and misunderstandings grow, and they start arguing a lot. Blair reports Gina to the police as a terrorist, and Gina gets arrested at the gas station. However, the fuel truck driver has a crash and the tanker explodes again. Gina and Blair keep repeating this day over and over, trying out every possible action. They run away, kill each other, and even harm bystanders. No matter what they do, they always end up back at the beginning of the time loop. Realizing they need a different strategy, Gina begs to be let go and not chased. She insists on taking control of the truck to return to the city and save her nieces and nephews who are playing in the park. Blair agrees, staying behind in the insurance office. She lets her workers go home to their families and ends her relationship with her fiancé. She realizes he never truly loved her and didn't try to save her when she died, so she accepts her fate and lets herself be turned into a zombie, only for the day to start over again. Even Gina can't succeed and ends up in another explosive crash. After talking everything through, Gina and Blair finally start to understand each other. For the first time, they reach a deal and even begin to form a friendship. Instead of arguing, they work together, distracting the FBI agent so they can take control of the fuel truck together. In a zombie apocalypse, fuel is more valuable than gold, and they're determined to get it. Blair and Gina successfully steal the truck and break through a checkpoint. But then, they see a group of people in danger, being chased by hundreds of zombies. Taking a big risk, they pour fuel from a bridge onto cars on the road below and set them on fire, separating the survivors from the zombies. They manage to save the group and overcome their own fears. But the truck explodes once again. This time, however, both Gina and Blair survive the blast. Gina thinks it might all be a shared hallucination, but Blair is sure it's a real, brutal reality, one in which they face themselves, overcome their differences, and even develop a real bond through a shared mission. Somewhere in the lakes of North America, a steamboat drifts with survivors from the zombie apocalypse. Around 30 people live on the boat, not just surviving, but but actually enjoying life. They have food, water, place to sleep, alcohol, electricity, and music. Zombies can't reach them in the water, so everyone relaxes and parties like nothing has happened. The only one unhappy with this carefree life is Dee, a single mother. She's used not only to danger, but also to solving every problem on her own. She's always on high alert and ready to kill anyone who threatens her or her daughter, Lydia. Meanwhile, Lydia barely interacts with her mother. Seeing Dee as harsh and aggressive, the girl admires Brooke, the confident and stylish woman who runs the steamboat and keeps its community in check. That evening, Dee tries on a dress and even shows up at the party, but she can't share in the others' joy. She envies Brooke for her ease with Lydia and faces criticism from the bartender, Billy, who finds her dull and unworthy of being there. He retreats to the kitchen just to avoid seeing her. Brooke tries to cheer Dee up, but even then Dee stays on edge, instantly killing a zombie trapped in a net when others nearly drop it on the deck. In the night fog, she spots figures on the shore and wonders if there are zombies or bandits aiming to take the boat and its resources. During the night, Dee hears strange noises on board, and in the morning, she discovers that an old man has gone missing without a trace. She immediately suspects Billy, but no one else shares her suspicions since there's no proof. While setting the tables for breakfast, Lydia tells her mother she doesn't want to be around her and wants Dee out of her life for good. Dee is deeply hurt and steps away to be alone and hide her tears. Nearby, she spots Billy and suspects him of another crime. She saw him throw a mirror into the water and thinks he signaled the bandits on shore. Not wanting to hear her accusations, Billy jumps into the water full of crocodiles and zombies and leaves the boat. Witnessing this, Lydia runs off and hides from her mother. She no longer wants to see Dee, but the situation shifts when screams erupt on deck. Dee was right. Billy is part of a group with weapons. 7 members of the gang have gotten on the boat, trying to join the survivors and be under Brooke's control. They kill the old man and are ready to kill 6 more. Billy and his group kill 2 people and then suggest killing Lydia and Dee, thinking they're the weakest and least useful. Some of the survivors agree with this idea, leaving Dee feeling disappointed with the people around her. Realizing she has no friends here, Dee kills some of the gang members and escapes in a small boat where her daughter has been hiding. Once on the shore, Dee and Lydia find themselves surrounded by 12 monsters. The only way to survive is to hide under a zombie's body. Dee does that, covering her daughter's face with the zombie's blood. A little later, they see Brooke, who is still alive, and Dee considers killing her. Lydia begs her not to, reminding her that Brooke had been kind to her, even if she was a bit careless. Dee promises Lydia she won't kill Brooke, but leaves a deep scar on her face, vowing to haunt her for life. Soon after, Dee and Lydia come across an old trailer with some leftover food. While Dee checks it out, Lydia notices 3 zombies coming towards her. Dee tells her daughter to be ready to defend herself and grab a knife, but Lydia isn't prepared. Dee kills the 3 zombies, but Lydia runs into the forest to hide. Lost in strange voices and seeming on the edge of madness, Lydia pushes Dee to make a terrible choice to end both their suffering. At that moment, they are found by a group called the Whisperers, led by a woman named Hera. Realizing she can survive by hiding among the zombies, Dee kills Hera, turning her face into a grotesque zombie mask. Dr. Shanti Ever is a reclusive scientist and naturalist who studies the natural world. He lives in the wilderness and doesn't just watch his surroundings. He studies the walking dead, calling them Homerdus. Everett sees them as the next stage in nature's evolution. With humanity itself being a threat, he lives near a protected area, allowing him to observe and categorize zombies into groups. He notes different types like hunters, defenders, and others, but his main focus is on object number 21. Everett uses a drone with a camera and a collar that sends the object's location to track it. The only ones messing with this natural balance are unknown hunters who cut off zombies' heads to sell them for their own reasons. Everett's calm routine is broken when Amy, a lost woman looking for a group of survivors, comes into his path. She was moving through the dead sector, a part of the wasteland covered in waggrass, but got separated during a zombie attack. Now, dozens of zombies are chasing her, but Everett doesn't rush to help. Instead, he watches her from a distance using his drone. When object number 21 attacks Amy, Everett finally steps in and saves her. On the way back to his cabin, Everett looks at a zombie that's been tied up with yellow tape and then goes home. Amy follows him, but Everett thinks she doesn't belong there and locks himself inside. Using a ladder, Amy climbs to the 2nd floor and threatens to jump from the porch, hoping to turn into a zombie and bite him if she gets the chance. Everett decides to let her in and notices she's been poisoned. After figuring out which berry she ate, he makes an antidote, which makes her sick all night. The next day, Everett tries to explain what his research is about. He sees everything happening around them as a natural process and sees zombies as part of nature's evolution. He refuses to help Amy find her group, calling it a silly idea. But But he doesn't stop her either, and their paths begin to separate. Alone with her fears, Amy spots object number 21 and starts tracking it, leaving marks on trees. At night, she comes back to Everett's cabin to talk about her zombie encounters, promising to find him in exchange for help. Reluctantly, Everett agrees, but warns her that this area is too dangerous for survival. Later, Everett reveals that object number 21 was his former colleague and the original owner of the cabin. He died from a serious illness, turned into a zombie, and is now Everett's main subject of study. Everett is determined to find him and will do whatever it takes, but he refuses to join any survivor group. Noticing Amy's cleverness and love for nature, he offers her the chance to become his protege. She says no, thinking it's better to die than to see people suffer or live like a cold, isolated person. The next day, Amy and Everett find a group of survivors, but they're quickly attacked by zombies. Instead of stepping in, Everett tells Amy to let things happen naturally, saying they should just watch people die. Amy decides to help her friends, but it's too late. They become victims of the undead. At the same time, object number 21 is unable to move. It flips over, can't get up, and drifts onto a floating surface, moving away from the shore. Everett risks his life to save the zombie. Just as he's about to pull it to safety, an alligator attacks and eats object number 21. Amy cuts the rope holding the creature and argues fiercely with Everett. Before she leaves, Everett warns her that this area is part of a zombie migration zone. No one can survive there. Amy sets out to find her group, but zombies attack her again. Everett doesn't help, watching from his drone. A few days later, he returns to the same camp and discovers a horrifying truth. The people there, including Amy, have all turned into zombies. They move around the camp like mindless monsters. Hiding under a cloak made of zombie skin, Everett watches Amy and the others, deciding to study them as new subject. Devin wakes up in the woods near a small town in Maine and realizes he has temporary amnesia. He can't remember what happened in the past few weeks, but a chained zombie named Amanda is with him. In self-defense, he hits the zombie in the head with the spring prosthetic on his leg, but he hears the voices of an angry crowd looking for a killer. When he meets a little girl with a flashlight, Devin understands the town thinks he's the murderer and he needs to hide, staying in a ravine with the zombie. He starts to lose touch with reality and imagines Amanda talking to him, accusing him of murder. Later, he sneaks into the town and finds the house where he lived before the amnesia. Here, memories begin to come back. He remembers arriving in this town 7 years ago. When he met a hunter, he hesitated to shoot. Making a fatal mistake, the hunter shot and wounded his leg. Devin might have died, but Amanda and her younger sister Nora found him and saved his life. Although he lost part of his leg, he survived and is deeply grateful to the kind women who helped him. Now, sneaking into a garage, Devin notices signs of a struggle and realizes he had to kill Amanda. The reasons behind this remain unclear. As more memories of the past weeks return, he recalls the love and respect he received in the town. He had a close bond with Nora, who taught him to play the piano. Romantic feelings grew between them, but what happened afterward is still a mystery. Hearing strange noises, Devin goes into the basement and finds a zombie boy. He ends the boy's suffering. At that moment, local townspeople who have been hunting the alleged killer attack him, knocking him unconscious with a blow to the head. Devin continues to remember his romantic moments with Nora. Later, the town decides to hold a public trial. They demand that Devin confess to what he did to the children and explain why he kidnapped them, but he can't hear anything. Nora is alive, but her son Garen has gone missing, so she despises Devin, believing him to be a maniac and a murderer. Arno, the son of the late Amanda, insists that Devin killed his mother and deserves the harshest punishment. Devin tries to defend himself, but the angry crowd refuses to listen and sentences him to death. They lock him in a van, planning to crush it with an excavator bucket so that zombies can eat his remains. On the brink of death, Devin remembers that Garen, the boy, is alive and escaped from the basement. Hearing this, Nora pleads for the execution to be stopped and for Devin to have a chance to speak. Though most oppose her, other grieving parents stage a fight to save him. Taking advantage of the chaos, Devin escapes from the van and runs away. A short time later, he tracks down Arno and sees the teenager heading toward a small house by the river. Inside, Arno is holding Garen, Nora's son, and Devin's cousin, captive. It turns out that Arno has been kidnapping and killing children in the town, believing he is saving them from the horrors of the modern world. Amanda not only knew about this, but she covered up her son's crimes to stop the angry townspeople from executing him. Devin remembers everything and also recalls that he killed Amanda, but it happened accidentally in self-defense. Devin tries to stop Arno, but the teenager attacks him with a knife, using a metal pipe to defend himself. Devin exposes Arno's crimes, uncovering a grave filled with children who had been turned into zombies. He calls the crowd to show the evidence and let Garen speak. The boy confirms that his cousin had held him captive, proving Devon's innocence. Arno begs for mercy, but Nora and the other parents start beating him. They then throw him into the pit with the zombies, turning him into prey for his own victim. Witnessing the cruelty and inhumanity of the town's people, including Nora, the one he loved, Devon feels a deep sense of disgust and decides to leave the town for good. Adelia and Eric, a young couple of survivors, find themselves in a desperate situation. Their group has turned into zombies, attacking each other. While trying to escape, Eric kills almost all the monsters, and the couple goes on the run. Hoping to find temporary shelter, Adelia remembers the house of a witch living nearby and suggests they seek her help. That night, they reach the house and manage to sneak onto the property. Once inside, they're unnerved by the oppressive atmosphere, but they're even more startled when Alma appears. She's not pleased with the uninvited guests, but shows compassion and allows Eric and Adelia to stay. Before dinner, Alma warns them she'll feed them and let them spend the night, but they must leave in the morning. Eric objects, arguing the house is big enough and has enough supplies for 3 people, which sparks a heated argument. At one point, he lunges at the old woman, frightening her. Alma suffers a sudden medical episode, hits her head on the table, and dies instantly. Later, Adelia goes to the bathroom to wash Alma's blood from her neck, and suddenly sees the old woman's hands trying to strangle her. It's just a scary hallucination, but Adelia is really shaken, realizing that the homeowner was actually a witch. Eric is happy that the house is now theirs and suggests they stay forever. Adelia feels uncomfortable about taking over the home of a dead woman, but Eric insists they aren't to blame for her death and can live there so that such a beautiful house doesn't go to waste. A little later, Adelia decides to pray for everyone who died on their way to the house. But then she hears Alma's voice, reminding her that this is her home and her land, and that outsiders don't belong here. Soon, Eric also starts hearing a strange voice, but it turns out to be a parrot in a nearby cage. The bird quickly becomes Eric's companion, making the house feel more like home. That night, Adelia can't sleep. When she turns around, she sees the ghost of the old woman standing over the bed. Terrified, she starts praying and decides to explore the house. That's when she notices a wall bleeding. Going down to the basement, she sees trees and from them, Maria, one of the women from the survivor camp who died and turned into a zombie just before their escape, attacks her. Adelia realizes that all of this is just hallucinations, but they're becoming more persistent and terrifying. Eric pretends to support her during these moments, but he gets angry when she reminds him of how many people he's killed just to stay alive. It seems he's lost his humanity and his ability to feel empathy. Yet, Adelia struggles to see the loving man she once knew, no matter how difficult it is. The next morning, she finds a necklace with a cross and begins to pray when another hallucination hits. Several tiny silver Jesus figures descend from their crosses, seemingly to punish Adelia for Alma's death. Later, Adelia goes outside to breathe some fresh air, but her hallucinations get worse. At one point, she's surrounded by thick fog and starts fighting the air with a knife, only to see Alma's ghost again. Soon, the parrot, which was once a friendly companion, becomes strangely aggressive. The couple tries to ignore it, but Adelia sees hallucinations everywhere, as if the house itself wants to hurt her. That night, Eric starts hearing strange noises too. He wanders into a hallway and finds photographs, not just any pictures, but snapshots from his own life, capturing moments when he killed people and turned them into zombies. Terrified by what he sees, Eric kills the parrot and realizes they can no longer stay in the house. The next morning, he buries the bird and hears Maria calling him. He sees her alive, begging him to open the gates, but he refuses. Just as he starts to change his mind, Adelia hits Maria with a pickaxe, trying to make Eric understand that this wasn't their friend, but a zombie. Determined to fight, Adelia confronts Alma's spirit, declaring that they are the true owners of the house. Armed with a knife, she goes down into the basement and attacks the zombies tangled in branches, killing them. For a moment, it seems the horror is over, but then the house erupts into chaos. Furniture moves on its own, the floor trembles, and Adelia grabs a gun, only to watch it turn into a crystal cross moments later. Looking out the window, Eric and Adelia see Alma rising from the dead. She moves toward them. Escape is impossible. She's not just a zombie, but a witch. She reminds them that this house will belong to her forever. Alma drives the couple into the basement. Overcome by hallucinations, Eric and Adelia end up attacking each other with knives, before becoming part of a group of the undead alongside all the people they've ever encountered. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Leave a comment about your favorite movie and we will make it next. Thanks for watching.